So we just experienced the Onward, the new Onward against the competition on some vertical inputs on our test track here. And how would you compare the experience on each of them?
So I've been driving this around and it felt good to me. And then as soon as I got in that car, immediately I didn't like the steering box. It felt more like a toy, and it steered too easy and too much play for me. It felt really uncontrolled to me, and the biggest thing that I noticed that we moved over almost a half a lane a couple times without me turning the steering wheel. I had to correct it back, and I felt like I was constantly chasing that over the bumps, and it never settled down per bump. It had a lot of jounce and whatnot. When we drove this over the bumps there, you know, look, it's violent. There's no doubt. We were kidding about how violent it is, but it still handled it. You could feel the wheels move up and down. Steering wasn't shaking in my hand. The vehicle wasn't bouncing side to side a lot, and it really didn't have a lot of extra jounce. It was much more controlled suspension.
So we've just experienced the Onward versus the competition on our skid pad, and you had a chance to kind of experience the steering characteristics and the roll characteristics. How would you kind of compare the two?
Well, you've got to drive the Onward first, and it's a very balanced vehicle, right? It doesn't seem like it's going to pick up a front wheel or rear wheel. It gives you a pretty steady feel, so you always feel like you're with the vehicle or ahead of it. And it had an incredibly sharp turning radius. We did some really tight figure eights there. And when I drove the other vehicle, you know, again, being a suspension guy, I just don't like the control of the front suspension feel in that vehicle. It had a good turning radius, but it seemed the harder I turned it, it would dip down on the front and seemed to me like it was picking up a inside rear wheel. So really felt like this vehicle was much more comfortable to me, especially if I'm going to be riding around carrying my family.